The massive space station hung in the void like a jewel, its crystal walls catching the light of distant stars. Inside the Great Hall, 12 different alien species sat in a perfect circle. Each chair was designed for a different body type. Some aliens floated in energy fields. Others needed special breathing masks. A few looked almost like giant insects with clicking sounds coming from their mouths. Ambassador Tony Mitchell walked into the center of the circle. His black suit looked simple compared to the glowing robes and metal armor around him. Behind him, Commander Helen Price and Dr. Kevin Ross took their seats at a small table. The three humans looked tiny in the huge room. High Chancellor Kethmore rose from his crystal chair. His body was made of living glass that sparkled with different colors. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes. We are here to judge the humans. They want to join civilized space. They think they deserve the same rights as real people. The other aliens made various sounds of agreement. Some clicked. Others buzzed. A few made musical notes that somehow sounded mean. Let us review their achievements, said Drone Prime Zictal. She looked like a giant ant with silver wings. They split atoms for energy. They built simple rockets. They can change the genes of plants and animals. How impressive. Her voice dripped with sarcasm. Grand Mystic Veltara floated above her chair in a bubble of purple light. She had no solid body, just energy in the shape of a woman. Her voice spoke directly in everyone's mind. I have looked into their thoughts. They still feel anger, fear, and jealousy. They fight wars over water and land. They cannot even agree on how to run their own planet. Tony Mitchell stood quietly and listened. He had expected this. Earth's leaders had warned him that the aliens looked down on humans. They thought humans were too young and too violent to join their group. They eat other living things, added Representative Korthek from the Ethereal Consortium. His body was made of blue mist that sometimes took solid form. We learned to live on pure energy thousands of years ago. These humans are still hunting and farming like animals. The Machine Collective's speaker was a robot with red glowing eyes. Its metal voice was flat and emotionless. Our calculations show humans are unpredictable. They make decisions based on feelings instead of logic. This makes them dangerous. Ancient Shepherd Morden was the oldest being in the room. His tree-like body creaked when he moved. Young species like humans always think they are ready before they are. We have watched races like them before. They destroy themselves or others. Better to keep them away from civilized space. Each alien species took turns listing everything wrong with humanity. They talked about human wars, human pollution, human inequality. They mentioned how humans still died from diseases that advanced species had cured long ago. They laughed about human technology being thousands of years behind their own. Tony Mitchell felt his jaw tighten with each insult. Commander Price's hand moved toward her weapon before she stopped herself. Dr. Ross took notes on everything being said, his pen pressing hard into the paper. Finally, High Chancellor Kethmore stood again. His crystal body now glowed with bright superior light. The judgment is clear. Humans are not ready for contact with advanced civilizations. They are too primitive, too violent, and too chaotic. But we're not just denying their request, added Grand Mystic Veltara with what might have been a smile. For their own safety and ours, we are placing Earth under restricted development status. Dr. Ross looked up from his notes. What does that mean exactly? Drone Prime Zictal clicked happily. It means no human ship is allowed to leave your solar system. No human is allowed to set foot on any world except Earth. You are quarantined like a disease until you evolve into something better. The room filled with alien laughter. Some species made musical sounds of amusement. Others buzzed or clicked with joy. The Machine Collective's robot even made a sound like electronic laughter. This is for your own good, said Representative Korthek. If you tried to leave your system now, you would probably start wars with everyone you met, or get yourselves killed by real dangers out here. Ancient Shepherd Morden's creaking voice added, Perhaps in 1,000 years you will grow beyond your animal nature. Then you can apply again. Tony Mitchell had heard enough. He stood up slowly, his back straight and his chin high. His voice carried across the huge chamber without any electronic help. We understand your decision, honored representatives. Earth will respect the quarantine you have placed on us. He paused and looked around the circle of alien faces. Some were still laughing. Others looked bored, as if the humans had already been forgotten. But I want you to remember this moment, Tony continued. Remember what you saw when you looked at humanity today. Remember what you decided we were worth. Because someday you might need to ask yourselves if you judged correctly. High Chancellor Kethmore's crystal body pulsed with bright, mocking light. And what exactly do you think we might need from a species that still fights with chemical explosives and metal bullets? Tony Mitchell smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. It was not a happy smile. I hope you never have to find out. The aliens erupted in even louder laughter. Some species were making sounds that might have been applause. Others were communicating with each other in their own languages, probably sharing jokes about the silly humans. Commander Price stood up and gathered their papers. Dr. Ross closed his notebook with a sharp snap. The three humans walked toward the exit while alien laughter followed them. As they reached the door, Tony Mitchell turned back one more time. "Oh, and one more thing," he called out over the noise. "When you do figure out what we're really capable of, don't say we didn't warn you." The laughter got even louder as the humans left. Outside the Great Hall, Commander Price finally spoke. "Sir, that was humiliating. They treated us like we were pets asking to sit at the grown-up table." "Let them laugh, Helen," Tony replied as they walked toward their small ship. "Every species in that room thinks they know everything about us based on what they saw today. They think being advanced means being superior." Dr. Ross looked up from his notes. "What they don't know is that every primitive trait they listed might be exactly what someone needs someday." Their ship was tiny compared to the alien vessels in the docking bay. It looked like a metal can next to works of art. But it was built by human hands with human minds, and it would carry them home to a world that had just been told it wasn't good enough for the galaxy. As Earth grew larger in their view screen, Tony Mitchell made a quiet promise to himself. Humanity would prove those aliens wrong. The question was whether the proof would come as friend or foe. 1 year had passed since the aliens told humanity to stay home. Life on Earth continued as normal. People went to work, children went to school, and scientists kept trying to understand the universe. But everything changed when the emergency broadcast started. General Carl Brooks stood in the war room deep under the Pentagon. Giant screens showed star maps with red dots spreading like an infection. Each red dot used to be a living world. Now they were cold, dead rocks floating in space. "How many worlds have we lost contact with?" he asked his intelligence chief, Captain Jill Stevens. 17 in the past week, sir," she replied, her voice tight with worry. "The Agricultural Union sent out distress signals before they went dark. Something is consuming entire planets. The aliens called them the Devourers. They came from the empty space between galaxies where nothing should be able to live. But these things were not really alive in any way humans understood. They were pure energy, hungry and endless, eating everything they touched." Dr. Patricia Bell studied the intercepted alien communications on her computer. As Earth's top expert on strange energy forms, she was one of the few people who could make sense of what was happening. "General, these beings don't just destroy planets. They eat the life force itself. Every plant, every animal, every thinking creature, they drain it all and leave nothing behind." The first reports came from the edge of the galaxy. Peaceful farming worlds that had fed billions suddenly stopped transmitting. When scout ships arrived to investigate, they found planets stripped of all life. The soil was dead. The oceans were empty. Even the bacteria were gone. The advanced alien civilizations tried to fight back. The crystalline Dominion sent their best warships with quantum weapons that could destroy atoms. The Machine Collective used computer brains smarter than anything humans had ever built. The Psionic Ascendancy tried to fight the Devourers mind to mind. Nothing worked. Every weapon, every strategy, every clever plan just made the Devourers stronger. They seemed to learn from each attack and grow more powerful. The energy beings fed on the complex technology and organized thoughts of their enemies. President Mary Clark watched the reports in her office. The same aliens who had laughed at humanity were now running away from an enemy they could not understand. Refugee ships filled with billions of beings were fleeing toward the center of the galaxy. "Madam President," said her chief of staff, Minister Frank Carter, "we're receiving encrypted messages through back channels. Some of the alien species are asking if we have any ideas about fighting these Devourers." Mary Clark looked at the message on her secure tablet. It came from Grand Mystic Veltara, the same energy being who had dismissed humans as too primitive just 1 year ago. The message was short and desperate. "Your species showed unexpected strength. We face extinction. Can humanity offer insight into combating beings of pure energy?" Similar messages came from other alien species. They all said basically the same thing. Help us. We don't know what to do. General Brooks joined the emergency meeting in the White House. The situation is getting worse every day. At their current speed, these devourers will reach the core worlds in 6 months. After that, they'll probably come looking for Earth. Dr. Bell spread her research across the conference table. I've been studying everything we can intercept about these beings. I think I know why the aliens can't fight them effectively. Go ahead, Doctor, the President said. The devourers feed on organized energy patterns. Every advanced weapon the aliens use, plasma cannons, quantum disruptors, reality manipulators, they all create complex energy that these beings can absorb and use. The more sophisticated the weapon, the more food it provides to the enemy. Minister Carter frowned. Are you saying their advanced technology is actually helping the devourers? Exactly. Every time they fire an energy weapon, they're basically feeding the thing they're trying to kill. It's like trying to fight fire with gasoline. General Brooks leaned forward. What about our weapons? Our technology? Dr. Bell smiled for the first time in weeks. That's what's interesting. Our weapons are primitive by alien standards. We use chemical explosives, metal bullets, and simple nuclear reactions. Our technology is crude and chaotic compared to theirs. And that helps us how? Because crude and chaotic might be exactly what we need. If these devourers feed on organized, complex energy, then maybe disorganized, simple energy could hurt them instead of feeding them. The President looked around the room. You're talking about fighting the most advanced enemy the galaxy has ever seen with weapons that aliens consider toys. Yes, ma'am. Our toys might be the only things that can actually work against them. Captain Stevens brought up the tactical displays. We have 12 ships ready for deep space operations. They're not much compared to alien fleets, but they're built tough, and they carry human weapons. The President faced the hardest decision of her career. Earth was safely quarantined in its own solar system. They could wait and hope the devourers never found them. Or they could risk everything to help the same aliens who had treated them like dangerous children. What do you recommend, General? Ma'am, if these devourers consume the entire galaxy, they'll eventually come for us anyway. Better to fight them now while we still have potential allies, even if those allies don't respect us, Dr. Bell added. Plus, if our theory is right, we might be the only species that can actually hurt these things. The aliens saved themselves from primitive emotions and crude technology. But maybe those are exactly the tools needed for this fight. President Clark stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see normal people living normal lives, unaware that the galaxy was dying around them. If we do this, we're not just risking our ships and crews. We're risking the secret that we might have a weapon that works. Ma'am, General Brooks said quietly, they didn't invite us to their club because they thought we were too dangerous. Maybe it's time to show them what human dangerous really looks like. The President turned back to the room. Prepare the fleet. We're going to war. Minister Carter looked worried. Ma'am, what if we're wrong? What if our weapons don't work any better than theirs? Then we'll die fighting instead of hiding. But at least we'll die as humans doing what we think is right. Within hours, the message went out to Admiral Ben Rodriguez and the human fleet. Operation Beacon was approved. 12 human ships would leave the solar system for the first time since the quarantine began. As the ships prepared to launch, Dr. Bell sent one final report to the President. If our theory is correct, the same primitive nature that got us banned from civilized space might be what saves it. The aliens evolved beyond chaos and emotion and simple solutions, but sometimes simple is exactly what you need. The human fleet launched into the darkness between the stars, carrying weapons that every advanced civilization had abandoned long ago. They were heading toward an enemy that had defeated the best military minds in the galaxy. But they had something the aliens had forgotten how to use: the willingness to fight dirty, think simply, and never give up even when the odds were impossible. The human fleet moved through space like a pack of metal sharks, 12 ships that looked nothing like the elegant vessels of advanced civilizations. The ESV Guardian led the way, followed by ships with names like Ranger, Sentinel, and Defiant. Each ship was built from steel and titanium, powered by controlled nuclear explosions, and armed with weapons that shot chunks of metal at incredible speeds. Admiral Ben Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Guardian, watching the stars ahead. His fleet was approaching what used to be a thriving world called Xerion Prime. Now it was just another dead rock in space, drained of all life by the devourers. Admiral, we're picking up energy readings, reported Captain Paul Green from the Ranger. Something big is moving near the planet. Rodriguez nodded to his science officer, Dr. Kevin Ross. What are we looking at, Doctor? Dr. Ross studied his instruments with growing excitement. Sir, it's one of them. A devourer. It's about 2 kilometers across and it's made of pure energy. The readings are incredible. It's like looking at a living star. Through the main view screen, they could see it. The devourer looked like a giant jellyfish made of lightning and fire. It pulsed with colors that hurt to look at directly. Energy flowed through it like blood through veins. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. It's moving toward us, announced Commander Lisa Hayes from the tactical station. Acceleration is increasing. I think it's detected our ships. The devourer approached the human fleet with the confidence of a predator that had never met real resistance. It had consumed hundreds of worlds and defeated every alien fleet that challenged it. These crude metal ships would be easy prey. But something strange happened when the creature tried to feed on the Guardian's energy. It reached out with tendrils of pure force, expecting to drain the sophisticated power systems that kept advanced ships running. Instead, it found only the simple heat of nuclear fusion and the basic electricity of primitive computers. The energy tasted wrong. It was chaotic, unorganized, almost random. The devourer pulled back in confusion. This wasn't the refined energy it was used to consuming. This was like trying to drink muddy water after years of fine wine. It's hesitating, Dr. Ross reported with amazement. The creature seems confused by our power signatures. Admiral Rodriguez saw his chance. All ships prepare to engage. Remember, we're not trying to be clever or sophisticated. Keep it simple and dirty. The human ships opened fire with weapons that would have made alien military experts laugh. Magnetic cannons shot depleted uranium shells at a significant fraction of light speed. Chemical rockets carried warheads filled with radioactive waste. Nuclear missiles designed for simple destruction rather than elegant annihilation. The devourer tried to absorb the incoming attacks, expecting to feed on the energy of advanced weapons. Instead, the uranium shells passed right through its energy body, each one carrying a small payload of chaotic radioactive decay. For the first time in its existence, the devourer felt something like pain. The random radiation from the uranium was disrupting its carefully organized energy patterns. It was like noise interfering with a beautiful song. Chaos breaking apart perfect order. Captain Green followed up with a salvo of dirty bombs. Weapons designed to spread radioactive material rather than create efficient explosions. Each burst created clouds of random, chaotic particles that the devourer couldn't process or absorb. It's working, Dr. Ross shouted from his station. The creature is destabilizing. Its energy matrix can't handle random radiation patterns. The devourer tried to retreat, but Captain Paul Green had one more surprise. The ESV Ranger accelerated directly toward the energy being, its hull loaded with nuclear waste from Earth's old power plants. Instead of trying to fight from a distance, Green rammed his ship directly into the creature's core. The explosion wasn't elegant or efficient. It was a crude nuclear blast mixed with tons of radioactive garbage, but it tore through the devourer's organized energy structure like acid through silk. The being's perfect patterns collapsed into chaos. For several minutes, the creature writhed in space, trying to reorganize itself. But every time it began to form coherent patterns, the lingering radiation disrupted the process. Finally, it gave up and fled toward the edge of the system. Admiral Rodriguez watched it go with grim satisfaction. Dr. Ross, are you getting this recorded? Every second, sir. This is the first time anyone has hurt one of these things. Commander Hayes was monitoring communications. Sir, we're receiving signals from across the galaxy. Someone intercepted our engagement and the data is spreading through alien networks. The news traveled fast. In the crystal halls of the Crystalline Dominion, High Chancellor Kethamore stared at the battle footage in disbelief. Impossible. Our quantum weapons had no effect, but these primitive kinetic projectiles somehow damaged it. On the Machine Collective's central processing world, advanced AI systems ran calculations trying to understand how crude human weapons could succeed where sophisticated alien technology had failed. The results made no sense according to their logic. Grand Mystic Veltara shared the footage with the Psionic Ascendancy's High Council. I was wrong about these humans, she admitted telepathically. Their chaotic nature isn't a weakness. It's a weapon we had forgotten how to use, but not everyone believed the reports. Drone Prime Zichtel of the Hive Collective dismissed the human success as luck. One small encounter proves nothing. These primitives probably just surprised the creature. It won't work again. Deep in space, the wounded devourer rejoined its swarm. It transmitted its experience to the other energy beings, sharing data about the strange new enemy. The message was simple. These creatures called humans were different. Their technology was chaotic, their energy signatures were random, and their weapons carried something that hurt instead of nourished. Back on the Guardian, Admiral Rodriguez prepared his next move. Dr. Ross, transmit our findings to Earth. Tell them the theory was correct. Our primitive technology is effective against these beings. What's our next target, Admiral? Rodriguez looked at the star charts showing red zones where devourers had consumed entire worlds. We're going to find the biggest concentration of these things we can locate. It's time to test our theory on a larger scale. Captain Green's voice crackled over the communications from his damaged ship. Admiral, the Ranger is still operational. We're ready for round 2. The human fleet regrouped and headed deeper into devourer territory. Behind them, alien refugee ships had detected the engagement and were changing course to investigate. For the first time since the invasion began, someone had actually hurt the enemy. Word was spreading through the galaxy. The primitive humans had done something that all the advanced civilizations could not. They had made a devourer retreat. In the darkest hour of galactic history, hope was beginning to flicker. And it came from the most unexpected source, the species that everyone had thought was too crude and chaotic to matter. The question now was whether 12 human ships could do more than just hurt one devourer. Could they actually turn the tide of a war that was consuming the entire galaxy? The largest battle in galactic history was about to begin. Near the crystal world of Nexus Station, hundreds of alien ships formed defensive lines. Every species that had mocked humanity 1 year ago was now fighting for their lives against an enemy they couldn't understand or defeat. The great devourer approached like a living nightmare. It was the size of a small moon, made of swirling energy that pulsed with the life force of 1,000 consumed worlds. This creature had eaten entire star systems and grown stronger with each victory. It had never been hurt, never been stopped, never even been slowed down. High Chancellor Kethmore stood in the command center of the Crystalline Dominion's flagship. His crystal body flickered with patterns of fear and desperation. Around him, the combined fleet of civilized space waited for what many believed would be their final battle. All ships, prepare quantum disruptors, he ordered. Focus all firepower on the creature's core. The alien weapons fired in perfect coordination. Beams of pure energy that could tear apart atoms struck the great devourer from every direction. Plasma cannons that burned hotter than stars poured their power into the massive creature. Reality-bending weapons that could twist space itself bombarded the energy being. The great devourer absorbed every attack and grew larger. Each sophisticated weapon just provided more complex energy for it to consume. The creature pulsed with pleasure as it fed on the advanced technology of its enemies. "It's not working," reported Drone Prime Zictal from her bioship. "Our weapons are making it stronger." Grand Mystic Veltara tried to attack the creature mind to mind, but her organized thoughts were just more food for the hungry being. "We cannot defeat it," she broadcast telepathically to the fleet. "It feeds on everything we are." Hidden among the civilian evacuation ships, Admiral Ben Rodriguez watched the battle through his sensors. The human fleet had positioned itself carefully, looking like just another group of refugee vessels fleeing the battle zone. "Sir," reported Dr. Kevin Ross from his science station, "that thing has consumed so much organized energy that it's become incredibly powerful. Our previous tactics might not work on something that size." Commander Lisa Hayes studied the tactical situation. "Admiral, the alien fleet is breaking apart. They can't hurt it, and it's getting stronger with every attack." The great devourer began its final approach to Nexus Station. The beautiful crystal city was home to billions of beings from across the galaxy. If it fell, organized civilization would effectively end. That's when Admiral Rodriguez gave the signal. "All human ships reveal positions. Time to show these energy eaters what chaos really looks like." 12 crude human ships emerged from their hiding places among the fleeing vessels. Compared to the elegant alien warships, they looked like garbage trucks at a car show. But they carried something the galaxy had forgotten how to use. Weapons designed for maximum chaos and minimum sophistication. "This is Admiral Rodriguez to all alien vessels." He broadcast on all frequencies. "Fall back to minimum safe distance. We're about to get messy." The human ships charged directly at the Great Devourer with no formation, no coordination, and no elegant strategy. They simply accelerated toward the massive creature like metal bullets fired from a gun. The Great Devourer reached out with energy tentacles, expecting to drain the power from these new ships. Instead, it encountered the same chaotic energy signatures that had confused its smaller cousin. These ships ran on crude nuclear fusion and basic electricity. Their computers were simple, their weapons were primitive, and their energy patterns were completely random. Captain Paul Green fired the first salvo from the ESV Ranger. Instead of energy weapons, he launched kinetic kill vehicles. Simple chunks of depleted uranium accelerated to incredible speeds by magnetic coils. Each projectile carried a payload of radioactive waste from Earth's old nuclear programs. The projectiles passed through the Great Devourer's energy body, but they left clouds of chaotic radiation in their wake. The random decay of radioactive particles created interference patterns that disrupted the creature's organized energy matrix. "Direct hit," reported Green. The creatures showing signs of destabilization in the impact areas. Commander Helen Price followed up from the ESV Defiant with a spread of nuclear torpedoes. But these weren't the clean fusion weapons that advanced civilizations used. These were dirty fission bombs designed to spread radioactive contamination across the widest possible area. The explosions tore through the Great Devourer like acid through paper. Each blast created expanding clouds of random, chaotic energy that the creature couldn't process or absorb. For the first time in its existence, the Great Devourer felt something like confusion. Dr. Ross monitored the creature's energy patterns from the Guardian. "Admiral, it's trying to reorganize itself, but the random radiation is preventing coherent formation. It's like trying to build a house during an earthquake." The alien fleets watched in amazement as the human ships continued their chaotic assault. Instead of sophisticated tactics, they used brute force. Instead of elegant maneuvers, they flew in straight lines. Instead of efficient weapons, they used crude tools designed for maximum disruption. Captain Stevens from the ESV Liberty executed the most desperate move of all. Her ship had taken heavy damage from the creature's defensive strikes, but she still had one weapon left: her ship itself. "Admiral, I'm going to overload our fusion reactor and ram the core. The uncontrolled nuclear explosion should create maximum chaos right in the creature's center." "Stevens, that's suicide," Rodriguez replied. "Sir, we didn't come out here to play it safe. We came to win." Stevens aimed her dying ship directly at the Great Devourer's brightest point and pushed her engines to maximum. The ESV Liberty struck the creature's core just as its fusion reactor went critical. The explosion was not the clean nuclear fire of advanced civilizations. It was a chaotic, uncontrolled release of energy, mixed with tons of radioactive debris. The blast tore through the Great Devourer's organized structure like a hurricane through a spiderweb. The massive creature convulsed in space, its perfect energy patterns collapsing into random chaos. It tried to feed on the explosion, but the energy was too disorganized, too random, too primitive for it to process. For the first time since the invasion began, a Great Devourer was retreating. The massive being pulled back from Nexus Station, its energy form flickering and unstable. But before it fled completely, the creature did something unprecedented. It broadcast a signal that reached every other devourer across the galaxy. The message was simple and terrifying. Species designation: human. Energy pattern: chaotic. Classification: toxic. Recommendation: avoid. Across the galaxy, other devourers received the warning. These energy beings that had consumed countless worlds and defeated every advanced civilization now faced something they had never encountered: an enemy they couldn't eat. The Great Devourer retreated toward the galactic edge, followed by its swarm. The invasion that had threatened to consume all life in the galaxy was ending, not because of advanced weapons or sophisticated strategy, but because 12 primitive human ships had proven that sometimes chaos beats order. On the bridge of the Guardian, Admiral Rodriguez watched the creature flee. "Dr. Ross, are you getting all this recorded?" "Every second, sir. The galaxy is going to want to see this." Around them, the alien fleets that had mocked humanity 1 year ago sat in stunned silence. The primitive species they had, dismissed as too chaotic and crude, had just saved civilization itself. The question now was, what would happen when the galaxy realized that their saviors were the same beings they had, banned from leaving their own solar system? The great crystal hall of Nexus Station looked very different than it had 1 year ago. The same chamber where aliens had laughed at humanity's request for recognition now hosted an emergency session of gratitude and shame. Every species that had survived the Devourer invasion sent their highest representatives. Ambassador Tony Mitchell walked into the center of the circle once again. This time he wasn't alone. Admiral Ben Rodriguez stood beside him, still wearing his battle-worn uniform. Dr. Patricia Bell carried a data pad with detailed reports about the Devourer defeat. Behind them sat the surviving crew members from the human fleet that had saved the galaxy. High Chancellor Kethmore rose from his crystal throne, but his proud bearing was gone. His translucent body flickered with patterns of humility and shame. "Ambassador Mitchell, Admiral Rodriguez, and brave crew of Earth," he began, his voice no longer carrying its previous arrogance. "The Intergalactic Oversight Assembly owes humanity a debt that cannot be measured in any currency we understand." The chamber that had once rung with mocking laughter was now silent. Representatives who had dismissed humans as primitive animals now looked at them with respect and wonder. "We have committed a grave error in judgment," continued Kethmore. "1 year ago we saw your species as too chaotic, too crude, too primitive for civilized space. We were catastrophically wrong." Grand Mystic Veltara floated forward in her energy bubble. Her telepathic voice spoke directly to every mind in the chamber. "I scanned the human representatives during their first visit. I dismissed their emotions as primitive weaknesses. I was blind to the truth that those same qualities, courage, sacrifice, creative chaos, would save us all." Tony Mitchell stepped forward to address the assembly. His voice was calm and measured, carrying none of the anger that many would have expected. "Chancellor, representatives of the assembly, we didn't help because we wanted recognition or revenge. We helped because extinction doesn't recognize political boundaries." Drone Prime Zictal of the Hive Collective clicked nervously. "Ambassador Mitchell, the Collective formally requests access to human military doctrine. Your concept of accepting losses for strategic gain, your willingness to use crude but effective solutions, these saved our species when our advanced tactics failed." Dr. Bell stepped forward with her datapad. "Representative Zictal, you're welcome to study our methods, but I think you need to understand what really happened out there." She activated a holographic display, showing the battle against the Great Devourer. The assembled aliens watched as crude human ships defeated an enemy that had consumed their most advanced weapons. "You called us primitive," Dr. Bell continued. "You were right. Our technology is thousands of years behind yours. Our weapons are crude and inefficient. Our methods are chaotic and unpredictable." The chamber remained silent, waiting for her to continue. "But the Devourers fed on organized energy, complex technology, and sophisticated thought patterns. Every advanced weapon you fired just made them stronger. They couldn't process our primitive chaos because they had evolved to feed on order and complexity." Ancient Shepherd Morden creaked forward on his tree-like legs. "Dr. Bell, are you saying that our advancement actually made us weaker against this threat?" "Yes. You evolved beyond the primitive qualities that could have saved you. You became so sophisticated that you forgot how to be crude and chaotic when the situation demanded it." Admiral Rodriguez joined the conversation. "We're not here to prove we're better than anyone. We're here because we want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. But maybe the galaxy needs to remember that different approaches to problems can be valuable." Representative Korthek of the Ethereal Consortium shimmered with embarrassment. "Admiral, we owe you an apology beyond words. When you said we might need humanity someday, we laughed. We never imagined the threat would be something our advancement made us unable to fight." The Machine Collective's robot representative processed the situation with electronic humming. "Calculating. Human methods show 347% greater effectiveness against energy-based threats than advanced protocols. This data suggests optimization through controlled chaos rather than perfect order." Tony Mitchell smiled at the robot's attempt to quantify chaos. "That's exactly the point. You can't optimize everything. Sometimes you need to accept that messy, inefficient, and primitive might work better than clean, efficient, and advanced." High Chancellor Kethmore pulsed with decision. The Assembly votes unanimously to grant humanity full membership in the Intergalactic Oversight Assembly with emergency authority to coordinate galactic defense protocols. Additionally, added Grand Mystic Veltara, we formally request that human advisors be assigned to military commands across the galaxy. We need to relearn the primitive arts we abandoned in our quest for advancement. But the surprises weren't over. Ancient Shepherd Morden made an unprecedented offer. The Elder Council wishes to share advanced technology with humanity. Faster-than-light communication, matter-energy conversion, gravity manipulation, knowledge that could advance your civilization by millennia. Dr. Bell exchanged glances with Admiral Rodriguez and Tony Mitchell. That's generous, Ancient Shepherd, but we need to be careful. If we advance too quickly, we might lose the very qualities that made us effective against the Devourers. The old tree being creaked with what might have been laughter. Wisdom beyond your years, Dr. Bell. Perhaps advancement should be balanced with preservation of essential nature. Tony Mitchell addressed the full assembly one final time. Representatives, we accept membership in your alliance. We'll share our military knowledge and help develop defenses against future threats, but we don't want to rule the galaxy or prove our superiority over anyone. He paused, looking around the circle of alien faces that had once mocked humanity. What we want is to be judged by our actions, not our appearance. The next time you encounter something different from yourselves, maybe consider that those differences might be strengths rather than weaknesses. The assembly erupted in agreement, not the mocking laughter of a year ago, but genuine applause in dozens of different forms. Some aliens made musical sounds of approval, others pulsed with light. A few clicked or buzzed their appreciation. As the ceremony concluded, Admiral Rodriguez quietly spoke to his aide, Lieutenant Pete Scott. They want to learn from us now. How do we teach advanced civilizations to think like primitives again? Carefully, sir, Pete replied. We don't want them to lose what makes them advanced, just remember what made them survive in the first place. The meeting ended with formal agreements and mutual respect. Human ships would patrol alongside alien vessels. Earth's crude technologies would be integrated into galactic defense systems. Most importantly, the footage of human ships defeating the Devourers would become required study for military academies across the galaxy. As the human delegation prepared to leave, High Chancellor Kethmore approached Tony Mitchell personally. Ambassador, I have one final question. When you warned us that we might need humanity someday, did you know about the Devourers? Tony Mitchell shook his head. No, Chancellor. We had no idea what was coming. But we knew that someday, somewhere, someone would face a problem that couldn't be solved by being more advanced, more sophisticated, or more evolved. And that problem would need humans? Not necessarily humans, Tony replied with a smile. It would need someone willing to be primitive, chaotic, and crude when the situation demanded it. We just happened to be the species that never forgot how. The Crystal Hall watched as the human delegation departed. This time there was no laughter, no mockery, no dismissive comments. There was only respect for the species that had reminded the galaxy that sometimes the primitive solution is the right solution, the quarantine that was meant to protect civilized space from humanity's primitive nature had nearly doomed them all. In trying to keep chaos out, they had almost lost the ability to fight an enemy of perfect order. As human and alien ships began joint patrols of the galaxy, one truth became clear to all. Advancement meant nothing if you forgot what made you strong in the first place. Sometimes the best way forward was to remember what you used to be.